And we are live. Welcome to an impromptu stream. Troy Francis, James Tusk, both of us in London for a change, which is unusual. Well, it's not usual. Yeah. I mean, I'm always sitting with my dick in my hand in London, but unusual for you to be here. So,
although we have got a joint enterprise, or a couple of joint enterprises to discuss, haven't we? We've got Rio Carnival. So if guys are wanting to join us for the greatest party, the greatest show on earth, then get out. It's to Rio. It's going to be the 13th to 21st of February, and we're both going to be in attendance running that. So it's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. So put your questions in the chat. I think we're just going to have a bit of a catch up on this one because it's been a little while since we've done one of these. So we're just going to shoot the shit a little bit. I called this Dating in 2026, The Bitter Truth. I might change the title. We might change the titles on our channels. But I mean, I guess one thing's for sure, it's not getting any easier out there, right?
Hence why we're going to Rio, because it's all of the hottest girls coming in the heat of Brazilian summer to an iconic city. If you've never seen what Rio looks like, Google it. It's an awesome place. It's located basically on a jungle hillside, but you've also got beach overlapping and the sea. So it's a beautiful venue, and it's the place to be for Rio. We've been going, well, we've gone 7 years in a row for a reason. Incredibly fun street parties. Brazilian vibe is awesome. It's all about being in the moment, being in the body, having fun. And unlike the Brits, they don't get absolutely hammered. They don't feel the need to. They'll sip a Corona or a Heineken. That'll do them. So, but it's an amazing vibe to be in, especially at this time of year in Europe, because obviously in Europe it's fucking cold.
Yeah,
Brazil, it's the peak of the summer. So you obviously came and helped with the coaching for our boot camp last year, and that was kind of your first exposure to it. And how did it? Yes. I mean, it's kind of explain to the layman what it's like. I mean, how would you describe it?
I thought it was awesome. I really loved it. It's one of those things, when you go to a place, because we discussed this before about, and you sort of said some people vibe with Brazil, some people maybe don't so much. I think most people do, because the women there are absolutely beautiful and it's a very fun place. But there are certain tastes obviously with this stuff. And I went, and it just, even though I was, for various reasons, not particularly in the best of states at the time, but there was something about it that just stayed with me. And you often think back to a place like, fucking hell, that was really cool. It was a combination of things, really. Obviously, very attractive women, very receptive, and socially just a very fun place. I mean, it's in the middle of Carnival, so that brings its own element. But there was just something about the culture that I just really, really liked. Something about the people. Rio Carnival itself, it was just mental, wasn't it? It's just absolute wall-to-wall carnage for like 2 weeks. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And the Brazilian culture it's very sexual. There's no stigma around sex, right? So it's just women are dressed very scantily, men are often in good shape and charging around, and it's just this beautiful kind of combination. And it's just a very friendly atmosphere. If you're a foreigner, you have massive kudos. Brazilian women love foreign men. So, it is a kind of a singles person's event in the sense that a lot of girls are there to just kick off and go carefree. And they would prefer to sleep with a gringo. I mean, I've had it before where Brazilians thought I was faking being English. So I'd have girls who are interested, and their friend would literally be like, no, you're brasileiro, you're Brazilian. And I'd be like, no, I'm from London. And literally show my passport, a photo of my passport, and they'd be like, oh, okay, fine. And you can just walk the girl home. You get Brazil, and I heard Brazilian dudes pretending to be English with this kind of dodgy Peaky Blinders style accent to get laid. And I remember this one incident, I was standing there, 2 guys, and I just knew straight away that they were just putting on a kind of pretend English accent, but seriously to impress the girls. And I didn't want to spoil their party because I was like, respect the hustle. And the girls bought it, and they just walked straight off and presumably down the street and presumably back to theirs. So I was like, fair enough,
So bring your passport.
There's been no client, myself, you, or any of the guys I previously ran it with, Fluid Social, Sam, that have gone to Rio Carnival that haven't either come back with us or gone again in subsequent years. It's that addictive. It's that good.
Yeah.
And you've got high energy street game, very sexualized, a bit like doing night game in the daytime. We can just walk girls home. But then we also go to ticketed events. So you've got parties where the ratios are skewed in the men's favor. So guys will pay a slightly increased ticket entry fee. but the ratios in the party will be 20-30% men, 70% women. So you've automatically got that kind of pre-selection element. It's a 3-to-1 ratio of girls to guys, so the women are kind of competing for the male attention. And on top of that, if you're foreign, women are just like, okay, if you're foreign and willing to approach. And the other thing I've noticed, and I noticed this in Scandinavia was another place I noticed it, but because it's weird in Scandinavia, it's more about drinking, but Brazil, because it's an incredibly social place, people don't really, even beginners don't really experience approach anxiety. It's just talking to people.
Yeah.
So it's normal for girls to come up and start a conversation with you. And for the average guy who's a bit scared of, maybe opening his mouth, he's seen some kind of ads on the tube in the wokosphere, he's a bit like, oh God, what do I do? Overthinking things. That's a refreshing change to be like, human beings are able just to converse. It's no big deal. If the conversation fades out, it fades out. On to the next one. And so
you get that whole thing. You get that whole thing, don't you, of people just kissing in the streets? Guys and women just getting together and kissing in the street. And the only downside to that is it's not necessarily that it's even going to lead anywhere. It's just part of the culture. But the thing is, the overriding sense is that this is a place you can just go and talk to people. Everyone's there for a party, and you can even make out with people. It's very, very. It's not like walking around in Oxford Street on a rainy day and trying to
summon your day game, chakras to approach. It's just very flowing and easy going. I mean, the first time I remember going there, I was in an area called Lapa, which is kind of the seedy Soho vibe. It's a bit sketchy, and they make caipirinhas on the street with their sugarcane rum, their very cheap version, which you have a few of those and you basically fall over. It's that kind of potency and lack of quality in the booze. And I remember I was just like blown away. I was like, this, streets are packed, people everywhere, women, prancing around, everyone making out. And my mate next to me was like, James, I didn't realize you were so open-minded. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, you've made out with like three dudes. And I was like, what? I was so happy that the trans morphed into women. And I was like, no, I'm really not into that. But I had one eye down here, the other eye up there. I just couldn't tell, right? So,
well, that bit would get clips. If we were still relevant, that bit would definitely
get clips. If only we were relevant. We have a question here from Mr. S. Slater 57. I'm 40 this year and still no ring on the finger. Help me.
Well, I mean, what help do you need? You've dodged a bullet. I mean, that sounds like a great state of affairs.
If you're in the position that a lot of guys are in, though, where you kind of don't understand any of the stuff we teach, you've never really heard of it, and you're like, "Fuck, I'm single. Am I over the hill?" No, men, from our point of view, peak late 30s, early mid 40s, and it's a very slow downhill descent. You can keep yourself relevant and still arguably keep building your value. I remember reading that book by Iran Taraban. He said the most attractive male archetype based on kind of surveys around the world was 54.
54
men that have their shit together. Yeah, really interesting. Value of Others is the book. It's actually worth a read.
I've actually, you know what? I need to catch up on that. I might download that today. I mean, I quite like his stuff. I mean, it's a bit analysis paralysis, isn't it? But he's definitely an intelligent bloke, so I'll have a look at that. But I
was pleasantly surprised by it, because I like his YouTube channel, but there's definitely that element that we, from our point of view, we like guys that are just willing to take action, because that's essentially what we did a lot, wasn't it? Just putting out relentless in fields, and he's definitely not that guy. But he comes at it with this kind of economic model approach, and it's a very interesting way of doing it. But he said, I think it was 54. Like, if you've got your shit together as a man and you've aged well, that is the most attractive you're going to be to the portion of women between the ages of like 18 to 29. Really interesting.
I think globally that is true. It might be difficult for people to accept if you're sitting in England or small town England, or you're sitting in small town America. You'd be like, "What? Are you crazy? 54? What are you talking about?" But I think globally that's definitely true, and I've noticed that as I've got older. I'm in my 50s as I've traveled, but all the way through my 40s, I would say, well, I've said before, I mean, I think 39 was probably my most prolific year in many ways as far as dating was concerned. In my 40s, I probably naturally, I say slowed down. I mean, I haven't really slowed down, but slightly, compared to most people, but sort of pulled back ever so slightly. But quality-wise, I would say 40s were even better. I mean, 40s, I think, were better than even the height of my 20. I mean, significantly better. But a lot of that was down to the fact I was traveling and obviously just meeting a whole range of different people, But
life is definitely not over at 40, is it? As Carl Jung said, it actually begins for a lot of men. That's where you're actually in your prime, and you're consciously aware of it. So that gives you some innate power in itself. And I can attest for what you say. I've traveled extensively around Eastern Europe and stuff with you, and you consistently, ever since I've known you, which must have been about 7-8 years now, have been dating women in their prime, right? 20 to 25 seems to be your sweet spot. But at no point has a girl ever, in my presence to you, said, "Oh yeah, you're too old."
Right? And that continues to this day. I mean, it might be the case. I have thought for a number of years it might be the case. Nobody's ever said to me, because we have a client actually who said to us, a couple of times he went out somewhere, I forget where it was, and a couple of times girls did say, "I think you're a bit old," to him directly, which can happen. I mean, you can get rejected for all manner of reasons, and sometimes girls will be a bit rude and they'll say something you don't like, and a lot of the time they won't. They'll just say, "Oh, I've got a boyfriend," and they'll give an excuse. If I was being brutally honest, I do think sometimes there have been situations where maybe I've been rejected, and maybe the real underlying reason was she thought I was a bit older for her, and she just hasn't vocalized it. That might be true, but in the big scheme of things, it doesn't really matter, because there's plenty of other women around who genuinely really like older guys, and for them it's actually a plus point. How
old is the client we're talking about?
About 50.
Okay. Yeah, so, look, I think a lot of it comes down to the fact you've got quite a boyish, playful attitude with women. Obviously, you've learned to do that. You understand what women respond to, and I think if we're thinking about the same client in question, the attitude is just quite serious and aged. Yeah. So obviously the age is going to present, isn't it? I mean, there are caveats to all of this stuff, and I mean, firstly, obviously trying to stay in shape as much as you can, trying to be well dressed, well groomed, all of that kind of stuff, to look as good as you can. That's one thing, and the other thing is the way you come across, your attitude. I mean, if you're coming across in a sort of dad-like way, then or like somebody's uncle at a party, then obviously that's not going to play very well. So there are a lot of variables to this. It's not just saying any guy, you don't have to do anything, and you're 45 and you're in your absolute peak. It doesn't quite work like that. But it is the case that if you keep the variables in your favor, then you get into your 40s and even 50s, and you can still be very much an attractive proposition. 100%, and I'm big on this idea of life is a game, and you're the playable character. And if you see yourself as a character to relentlessly level up, and it's a beautiful thing being a man, because unlike women, where the value is fixed, but depending on youth and fertility cues, basically looks, right, and youth. Unlike that, as men, we can pretty much relentlessly work on every value attraction area and build our sexual market value, right? A bit like crafting something from clay. And if you're unwilling to do that, fine, you can play the victim. But if you're willing to take control of that conscious process, the sky's the limit. It really is.
I mean, most of our clients, most of the guys, because we work with people on a various bases, we'll do a boot camp event like Rio Carnival, and we'll get guys who come to that maybe as a one-off. We don't recommend that, because actually this is always part of a longer growth strategy. But we also get people that we work with longer term. We'll work with somebody for 6 months. We'll work with somebody for a year. We'll work with people for 2 years, in an advisory capacity. And most of those people are over the age of 40, or around 40 or older than 40. Most of the clients that we've worked with on a longer term basis are older guys, aren't they? And that's, for me, probably for you, for both of us, really. I mean, our market really is that. We're not really. I mean, yeah, if you're 21 and you need help with this stuff, for sure, we'll absolutely work with you. We'll help you. But in a way, our focus is more on the older guys. I mean, certainly for my channel, the stuff I'm putting out, it's more focused on these guys who are of that kind of age, really.
100% agree. So Slater57, get in touch with Troy, send him an email, we can have a chat. Troy@realtroyfrancis.com. So guys, just to recap. So Rio Carnival 2026, send us an email, info@jamestuss.com or Troy@realtroyfrancis.com if you want to join. It's going to be phenomenal. So a lot of day game in the beaches, on the malls, in the street parties, and the night game in the bars. It's a phenomenal experience. It should be on every man's bucket list. Honestly, just even if you don't come with us, just go. It's that good. Yeah. But we have the inside tracks. We've been going for 7 years, so I know all the parties, all the promoters, all the place to go, right? We've spent 7 years learning it, figuring it out. So if you want to maximize your experience, join us. And the other exciting announcement we've got is the revamped Approach Academy Accelerator course. How would you describe that, Mr. Francis? If you're talking the great unwashed, how would you describe that?
It's a 10-week course that basically gives you the keys to the kingdom as far as dating in 2026 is concerned. So if you're watching this and you're like, I'm not getting dates, or I'm meeting women off Tinder but they're ghosting me, or I'm getting one date and then they always send me that message saying, oh, there was no chemistry there, and you get dumped the next day. If that's your reality, then Approach Accelerator is for you, because it takes you out of the dating app hell. It gets you actually out and approaching attractive women in real life, and massively expanding the number of options that possibilities that you've got. And we take you all the way from the beginning, what do I say? How do I get over approach anxiety? How do I not be nervous? All the way through to, how do I run relationships? How do I, get a girl? How do I keep a girlfriend? How do I, so we take you through the whole process. And it's a 10-week video course. So we've got pre-recorded video modules, but we've also got weekly webinars, which we'll be running over Zoom, which will be private webinars. You can come onto that. It's going to be group webinars, and you can ask us any questions you want, and we'll help you live on the webinar. We'll also have private WhatsApp groups, a private WhatsApp group with you, where we'll give you pretty much 24/7 support over the course, and for a couple of months afterwards. And there'll be a joint group as well, so you'll be able to meet like-minded guys, interact with them, get learnings from different parts of the world, find wings, etc., etc. So it really is, if you want to go into this year and actually make a difference and not just have the same problems repeating over again, this really is for you.
100%. So again, if you'd like to, maybe just if you could write the, for some reason I can't post, Troy, but if you write the email addresses down. So either for Rio Carnival or for the AAA course. These are the two keys, well, not the two keys to kingdom, but the live events, as we've always done. They are continuing for 2026. The big one coming up is Rio Carnival. Highly recommend it. It's a fantastic event. After that, we've got Guadalajara, and then we'll be back to Europe. Some things in Warsaw, Mexico City later in the year, Day of the Dead. But the upcoming one is Rio Carnival. So get in touch for that. Troy at realtroyfrance.com, at info@jamestuss.com. Include your WhatsApp number. And the other thing to consider is the Approach Accelerator course. It's a 10-week course. It closes. I believe we're going to take 10 guys onto this cohort. Yeah. And we've got 4 spaces remaining from 10. So 6 signed up. And that begins the 14th of February, right? Valentine's Day, ironically. We should have started on March the 14th, Steak and Blowjob Day. We fucked up.
We'll have a special thing for that. But
yes.
Yeah,
so what should guys be doing, right? So they've got no idea what the fuck, say they're single. We've had a few comments from these guys going, I'm 40, I'm single, or, just got single again, new year, new me. What should a guy be doing? Like what are the actions without the mind fluff and the discussion tactics that guys often use to avoid doing stuff? What are the key actions if you were single again now? Well, you are single, but if you were learning this for the first time again now, what would you be suggesting to yourself, knowing all you know? What are the kind of key actions you'd be saying to do?
The key thing really is that you need to get out of the house and go and talk to people. And
that's really it, isn't it? Just physically leave the house and start opening your mouth to people.
Yeah. And you need to be doing it consistently and making it a habit, not just as a sort of, oh, I'll do it once in a, every month I go to the bar and I maybe try and talk to one person and then I scurry home again. You've got to be making this a daily, consistent part of your routine. And it's talking to attractive women that you are interested in and you want to, get to know. Absolutely. But equally, just talking to anybody. I think a lot of us, people drawn to this content, certainly myself, I think you to a large degree, have been quite introverted and probably not very good at being social on the spot. And we need to break through that, and the only way through it is to actually do it, So it's, yes, having conversations with girls that we are attracted to and we want to progress with, that is the keys to the kingdom. But equally, being used to just talking to people that we don't know and establishing connections with them of different kinds, you need to be doing it, and you need to be doing it consistently.
Yeah, you're training the nervous system to, you're always going to feel a bit of fear doing new things or anxiety, and you're training the nervous system to sit in that and make it not a big deal. And
Yeah.
if you do that 50, 100 times, suddenly it goes to, oh, this is just, I'm relaxed doing it. I'm confident.
And I used to be absolutely horrendous at this. When I was in my teens, when I was probably, I don't know, up until 20 or even into early 20s, I was very, very bad at being social with people that I didn't know. I mean, I had mates at school and things, but it was quite a small group. And outside of that, found it incredibly difficult with guys as well as with women, because I was worried about what people thought about me. I was worried about rejection or even social rejection. If it's a guy, it's not rejection in the sense with women, but maybe they socially reject you. They don't think you're cool, whatever. And it took me years of just relentless putting myself into situations that were uncomfortable to break through that. And even now, is it my absolute default? Through practice, yes, but is it my natural state? I don't know, because really I am quite solitary. Like, I like time on my own. I like to be alone, to do solitary things, etc., etc. But you've got to break through that, and it's only through breaking through that my life has changed significantly for the better, both in terms of dating and meeting women and stuff, but equally just in terms of having a good life on this planet while we're here as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there's a writer it's interesting because there's random writers I follow that are not connected to this space at all. But a lot of them seem to, at some stage, put in one of the keys to the kingdom to absolutely change your life is talk to strangers. So it's essentially what we're saying. Obviously, the strangers happen to be.
Well, bizarrely, have you ever heard of Mel Robbins?
Yes, poor man's Tony Robbins. Ish.
Do you know Mel Robbins? I mean, she's kind of her book actually, The Let Them Theory. I don't know if you've read that. Or listened to it. It's actually quite good. It's a very simple premise, which is basically you can't control what other people think, so just let them get on with it. Girl dumps you, okay, let her, and let me move forward. So those are the two keys. Let them think what they want, let them say what they want, let them do what they want, and then let me continue. And this is my path, this is my mission. So it's very simple, but it's actually quite a good book. And she's got a podcast and stuff like that. And she's a very sort of unoffensive. I mean, she's got the biggest podcast in the world at the moment, I think, or one of the biggest podcasts in the world.
It's bigger than Rogan's? No, surely not.
Yeah, she's
in the top 5.
She won some kind of, she won a Golden Globe or something, which they'd never given to a podcast before last year. I mean, a lot of success, and the book's been a massive bestseller. But she's a very sort of middle of the road. She's a middle-aged woman, married, kids, sort of mummy kind of a vibe. She's not an offensive person. She's very sort of, very on the level. Although she gets some really interesting people on. She gets Chris Williamson on and people like that, I think, and probably got Paul Mosey on and stuff like that. I don't know. Anyway, the CEO guy, she's had him on, stuff like that. But interestingly, because I've been listening to a number of, it's quite comforting. It's like relaxing, like sort of mood music in the background. I've been listening to her podcast a bit recently, and she says the same thing. She literally says, go out there and talk to people. She describes moving from, I think she lived in Boston, or she lived in a bigger city, and she moved to a small town with 3,000 people in it. And she said, I was lonely. I didn't know anybody. I was cut off from my usual friend groups and stuff. And she said the way I broke through it was literally to go to the store and talk to the guy in the store, go to the cafe, talk to the person in the cafe. And she's even referenced it for dating. She said, for dating, you can do this, but equally just for your social life. And I'm thinking, it's kind of funny because we've been sort of slightly demonized for years because of this, these dating coaches, you're misogynistic, you're preaching to, whatever. And then fucking Mel Robbins, of all people, is basically saying exactly the same thing as us, which is go out, talk to people. It's good for your mental health. Apart from meeting new friends and new potential partners, it's great for your mental health. So our message is not particularly outrageous. It's just very old school advice that really works.
Yeah. And I mean, practically, what would you say guys should do? Just say one more thing. Would that be a good starting place when they interact with someone? So someone says, say one more thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, an example, as a small example that happened to me recently, right? So I've joined this new gym, which is just over the road, which is great because I can roll out of bed and just go straight to the gym. So it's fantastic.
Is it salt of the earth or more kind of?
No, because it used to be, but it's been bought by Anytime Fitness. So it's quite corporate now, but it's it's good. It's got a lot of equipment.
But you've got the world's best gym in Soho House. Why do you need to Most underrated gym of all time, that place.
Because, well, I could still go to those, but logistically, I realised it was a bit of a pain because it takes me a certain amount of time. I've got to get the tube, got to walk there, and blah blah blah. And it's sort of like with this, it's literally I can just roll out of bed and I'm there in like 2 minutes. So from a routine perspective, I think it's working at the moment. But anyway, there's this woman who works there, and she's not, I'm not attracted to her or anything like that. But she's sitting there. She's on the not reception, like she's a trainer, but she sits at the front. And last couple of days, just started talking to her, and it turns out she's Brazilian. And I was like, oh, I'm going to Rio soon. She's like, oh, cool, yeah, carnival. I come from a different place. I come from over here. Now, and now, every time I go in, she's like super friendly to me and we have a bit of a chat and stuff like that. Now, there's no underlying incentive here. I'm not trying to get with her or anything like that. But just those very simple. So now I can probably stand with her for 5 minutes and have a chat. I could ask her some stuff about Brazil. I could ask her some recommendations of different places to go, maybe even things to check out in carnival, stuff like that. It doesn't mean anything in itself, but what it does mean, because I've done that, I've got that building block. Now, if I see somebody who I'm actually attracted to and I want to get to know, I'm in a much better state. I've got much more momentum to go and talk to that girl who I'm genuinely attracted to and I want to make something happen with. If I wasn't doing the proprietary stuff in the background, like David, our colleague, talks about flirting with the world, which I guess sort of doing slightly with this woman. I mean, if I wasn't doing that, I wouldn't have the foundation then to do the more difficult thing of going and talking to that woman who's I'm actually attracted to. Because if you're starting from zero and you see this woman who's your perfect 10, how well is that going to go? Unless you're actually in the practice of talking to people the whole time.
100% agree. And I remember watching Charlie Hooper, the Charisma on Command guy on Modern Wisdom, and he talked about Russell Brand in his prime, this idea of flirt with the world. The reason he's able to do that is because he's constantly in that kind of playful mode. Yeah. And a lot of our clients, more introverted, they just want to see that worldie and switch it off. It's not realistic, right? Who you are is really what you're doing behind the scenes. So they all want to shortcut it and not speak to anyone. Then when the stunner comes on, just whip out an amazing game. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. You have to be constantly in that kind of vibe of just, having fun, being playful, being a vibe lifter. And it also makes your life way better if you're just doing that with everyone, regardless of age, gender, whatever, because then socializing is just not a big deal, is it?
Yeah. Because the fundamental problem we've got is that guys are sitting there and they're thinking, well, I want to have a girlfriend who looks like Margot Robbie. Okay, so how do I get to that? So I'm sitting here in my bedroom and I don't have anybody and I haven't had a girlfriend for 6 months and whatever, but I want to meet a girl who looks like Margot Robbie. So what's the process? And it's like, well, if you don't speak to anybody, if you're not being social consistently, and then you see a girl who looks like Margot Robbie in Starbucks, what are you going to do? You think, well, I can go up to her and spit some game. I can come out with these verbal lines that I've learned from, 2010 from Tom Torero or something. It's like, it's not really going to happen. Or it's not going to happen because firstly, you're going to bottle it. That's the first likely thing that's going to happen.
You're not even going to open your mouth.
And you're not going to have the balls to do it. So that's the first thing that will probably happen. But if you do summon up the balls and you go over, then what's your vibe going to be like? What's your energy going to be like? What's your aura going to be like when you go over? Probably not very good if you haven't spoken to anybody except people on X for like the last 6 months because you've been sitting in your bedroom. It's probably your vibe's going to be shit. And she's just going to be like, oh, thanks, but no thanks. Whereas if you've been going out and regularly talking to people just in the, in the cafe, in the gym, in the dry cleaners, whatever, McDonald's, I mean, your baseline vibe is going to be so much better. So then you see the Margot Robbie girl and you're going to come in with a certain amount of energy. You're going to come in with a certain amount of charisma, but there's no shortcut to that as far as I know. There's no quick way of doing that. You have to be constantly greasing the wheel in order to get there.
I agree. Look, there's no skill set in the world that you can be good at without doing it with frequency, and social skills is no different. Apart from
just playing devil's advocate, what about hard drugs?
Well, we're both good at that.
So the reason why, because obviously we're both in the UK at the moment. We're from here. There's a massive drinking culture in Britain, as there is in many countries around the world. Why do people do that? Well, for a lot of reasons, but a big part of it is the social side, isn't it? People get drunk, and this is the classic. And we've talked about this before. The classic thing is back in our day, before dating apps and social media, the only way to meet people was face to face. And what people would do would be just have a load of drinks, go to the pub or bar, and then try and hit on somebody drunk. And that's still the default for most people. But the problem with using alcohol or any drug is that it doesn't really, there's always a bill to pay at the end. You know, it doesn't really work. It may give you a bit of false confidence in the moment, but you can come off as weird. On alcohol, you can be sloppy. On cocaine, you can look wired out or whatever. And then you've got the come down to deal with and everything else. What we're proposing is not to try to take what seems like the easy route. What we're proposing is you've got to practice this stuff stone cold sober in real life and just make it a habitual part of your existence. And that way, you know, then you can do it anywhere, anytime, any place, you know?
100%. And maybe a frame that's been useful for myself and I think clients is just be a vibe lifter. Try and make people feel good, right, by your social presence.
Well, you're better at this than I am, because I can be a little bit lazy about this. I mean, I've seen you I don't think, probably neither of us are quite habitually on the David Garcia level of just talking to everybody and having 20-minute conversations with everybody and everything. But you're quite good. I've seen you going into cafes and your banter with the person working there and stuff like that. I can be a little bit lazy about it and I can be a bit closed off to it sometimes. But the truth of the matter is, the more that I do it, the better my life goes, you know?
Yeah, you're never going to walk out of the house and talk to 5 to 10 random people, just saying playful little comments and seeing if the conversation goes everywhere and not feel better, not feel more connected, not feel more present and not feel a better human being. Yeah. So it's a symbiotic life skill, a bit like going to the gym, which just adds value to your life with no result. But then on top of that, you're way more likely to get in conversations with a cute girl and it goes somewhere. So it's kind of like there's an asymmetrical upside. There's no downside ever to doing it. And you get better at it. Yeah. And then you're able, when you see that sign, just to flip in and talk to her.
Well, I seem to have that's why I tell the story about the woman in the gym, because it's actually it was actually quite a nice part of the day, you know, and you know what it's like. I mean, I get up in the morning, I don't really want to talk to anybody. And then she starts talking to me, like, oh, fucking hell. But actually it's quite a nice thing. Doesn't mean anything. I'm not attracted to her. I'm not trying to get with her, but it's just a nice addition to the day. And the more times you do that, like if I go for a coffee later and I talk to the barista or the guy who's working by the thing, it's just a nice little added element to the day. We're not just sitting in our silo, boxed off from everybody, you know?
I think a practical way of applying this for guys is say one more thing. And if you can, don't put pressure on yourself, but if you can, make it playful. So for example, you go in to get your morning coffee, wherever you are. No one wakes up feeling social, right? So the person says, what do you want? You say, black coffee, and they usually go anything else. And you can go, if you're feeling playful, you could be like, yeah, smile, you're looking really tired. Or yeah, smile, you're looking very energetic. Or how many coffees have you had today? You're very energetic. Or God, you need some coffee. You're not very energetic. Just, it doesn't matter what you say. It's the frame you come from, a playful self-amusement being a vibe lifter. Do that 5 or 10 times a day throughout random situations, and you will get into random conversations. You'll have fun. You'll lift your own vibe up, and you're just adding value to the world, because most people, they're just fucking way too logical, right? And if you're going with a playful vibe, it breaks the stereotype and you become good at it. It works your social intelligence muscle, because you start seeing life as a bit of a human Sudoku, being like, right, in this situation, how could I say something playful that lifts the vibe? And you start being addicted to that feeling of being a vibe lifter, spontaneous, playful, and opportunities socially open up.
Yeah.
And the key is let the conversation go where it goes. Some people also are not very social. So you'll say something, they might smile, and then the conversation doesn't go anywhere. Some people, you say something and they light up and start talking, and then you just humor that and talk a bit. And when the conversation naturally dies off, let it die off. And if guys actually went out and consistently did this, right, 5 to 10 of these a day, you did that for a month, your entire life would change.
Yeah.
I guarantee it, right?
Yeah.
And that's not even really approaching. That's just being slightly more social than the average person, which is completely antisocial.
I mean, I seem to have a weird thing about me, though, that I seem to, like my ex used to say, I seem to attract people who just want to talk to me in public.
Well, yeah, drug dealers.
Sorry?
Yeah, drug dealers.
Yeah, just weird people. So I was at this market stall in Catford last summer, and I was just looking because they were selling like vests and stuff like that. I was like, oh, let's just have a look at this. So, and I was having a look to look at the t-shirts, and this woman comes up to me. She goes, "Oh, it's great in here, isn't it?" And I was like, yeah. She goes, "Oh, I always come here. You know, I went to Primark before. I bought a G-string in Primark. I bought it online, and they sent it to me, and it came through. I unwrapped it, and it was stained.
Jesus.
So I sent it back. So I was like, oh, okay. Well, thanks for sharing." But I don't know. I don't know if there's something. So my girlfriend at the time would say, "You've got this weird thing where people just come up and they want to talk to you." And sometimes I find that annoying, but I do wonder a little bit. She said, there's just something about you. And I do wonder a little bit if that comes through because we've been so relentlessly social over many years. Even if I'm not feeling on, maybe there's something about me that draws. I'm not saying it's a great outcome to have some woman coming up and talking to you about Primark knickers, but it's just sort of like, maybe there is some kind of aura that we have because we've lent into this so much for so long.
I think I think we're just open, right? We're not closed off. And we're all going to close off states, don't we? But the more you just practice realizing, and there's something I realize, which we always forget, which is sometimes I'll say when I first started going to Brazil, I'd walk into a bar by myself. And I just assume that everyone in the bar knew each other and I was a total outsider. It's a ridiculous mentality because we're all born alone and we all live alone. And ultimately, we all die alone. We're all playing our singular video games of life. If you think about the other person's perspective, or if I think about my perspective, if someone came up with a chirpy attitude, male or female, and just started a conversation and wasn't weird, I'd be like, cool. I wouldn't shut down, right? So if you think about being that person, you were that source of that energy, that vibe, it's a great skill set to have because so few people have it, right? But it adds value to the world and there's no need for an outcome. You just get into quirky conversations, something I do a lot of the time as well as I'll ask an interesting question. So I had this example, I'm always thinking, right, if I'm, in a random conversation with a person, so staying in South Africa with family recently, and there's a person kind of taking the bags to the room, and I said, "How long have you worked?" And they're like, 5 years. I say, what's the craziest thing you've seen? And they started telling me about this wild fight they'd seen between two Afrikaan families, right? Fueled by booze. So you're also just thinking, right, what's an interesting thing in this situation? Because it is interesting. You can always learn. Yeah. We always think we have the answer in life, but ultimately we grew up in tribes for a reason, right? And now we all kind of live in this splendid isolation of feeling connected by social media, but it's not the same as being in person and just speaking to someone. So it's the lost art of communication. I think that's what we're really trying to get to. But if you genuinely go out and start conversations with people every day, randomly, it can be with a cute girl. If you're feeling too nervous at the beginning, just random people you have to come into contact with, person serving you coffee, person letting you in at the gym. Your life will infinitely change for the better.
Yeah. And this is the only hack that we've got left, gentlemen. I mean, the only thing that's left available to us, because I've been talking about this a lot recently on videos I've done, but it's like the dating apps have been shit for men for a long time, and they're only getting worse. And yes, there are things you can do to have a better profile, and there are things you can do to improve your Instagram profile and stuff, and you should do those as well, for sure. But if that's the only string you've got to your bow, if you're buying into the narrative, the only way I can meet people in 2026 is through online dating and online platforms, you're kind of screwed, or at least you're just at the mercy of the algorithm. You don't really have any agency. You're kind of sitting there just hoping to be chosen. You're like, oh, I'll tweet this picture, I'll tweet that picture, swipe, hope some cute girl kind of picks me, which is not really it's not a very optimal way of going about it. You haven't got any. Whereas if you learn the social stuff, you break through all of the nonsense online and you go, right, there's this woman at the bus stop. She's a Margot Robbie lookalike. I want to get to know her, and you bypass having to fall into her search terms or her search requirements. He's got to be 6'5". He's got to be 35 or under. You bypass all of that. You could just go and talk to her. Okay. And there's a good chance she's not going to be interested, but there is a chance maybe she just kind of likes you. Maybe there's a good vibe, and people who are terminally online just don't have that option. They don't have that edge,
The other thing to bear in mind is if you just do what most guys do, which is not speak to people ever, and then, rely on online dating for, dates, you're still going to have to communicate with the person when they turn up, right? Yeah. So if you haven't been flexing that ability, those social skills, you're still screwed. because you're not just going to suddenly whip it out on the date, right? This
Yeah.
elaborate like sequence of seduction ability. It doesn't work like that. We are what we frequently do. So ultimately, if you want to get good with people and get what you want in life and influence and persuade and get where you want dating wise, you have to be social. There's no way around it for anyone. That's it, right? So you might as well actively go into that kind of discomfort, because that gives you that leverage, that stress, that positive stress response, rather than just being forced into it by when you don't socialize and then you end up on a date. You're like, fuck, I want to get laid, right? And you haven't spoken to someone in 2 weeks. It's way harder. So ultimately, whether you realize it or not, there's no escape from having to be social.
Yeah.
So you might as well do it on your own terms and do it playfully and be a vibe lifter and enjoy it, rather than being like, fuck, I've got to go on this date with a girl. I haven't spoken to someone in a month, right? Outside of work. What do? I really want to get laid, right? Just think about that. So we're presenting the option, the kind of facing the adversity on your own terms in a positive way, or having to do it anyway against your will. There is no other way. There is no other option.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you want to accelerate this, of course, I noticed there's a guy here who's just started. Good kudos to you, sir. Sean DSZ. If you want to accelerate the way in which you learn this stuff, which you have to learn if you go with our logic, then get in touch and take on the Approach Academy Accelerator, which is designed to 10x the speed at which you learn it. Because we distill, myself, Troy, and Les have been doing this for a combined 30 years. We distill all our knowledge into the simplest possible formula and then give it to you in a gamified system and hold you accountable over 10 weeks. Right. So lots of gamified challenges with being social, going out, making it fun, right? Which is a great way to learn a skill set. Because if you can enjoy the skill set and anchor enjoyment to it, the whole process speeds up, right? Because it's a playful experiment, no big deal. So instead of trying to piece it together yourself, rely on the information from us. We've done between us thousands and thousands of approaches. We've gone on hundreds of dates, we've traveled the world, gone to hundreds of countries teaching this stuff. We can 10x the speed at which you learn it. Get in touch. The course shuts 14th of April. It's 10 weeks. And that's the way to do it. We always think, right, if we were learning this for the first time, knowing what we know, how could we learn this as pain-free as possible? Because we had to do it the painful way. There was no course like this.
Exactly. I like this one. It's so simple. Great point. Putting on a leather jacket and asking people if their French doesn't work for anyone anymore, for everyone anymore, particularly in English cities where there aren't many French people. I mean, to be fair, the French thing was only an example. It wasn't like you don't have to say, are you French? That was just a suggestion. It wasn't,
We see Mr. Paul there from Bogota, a nomadic soul like ourselves. Paul, get your ass over to Rio Carnival. There's nothing else to say, really. Richard Matthews, you have to do everything. Street cafe, book, mall, bar, events, dating apps, be wholesome. I agree with that. But I would even say don't bother with dating apps, honestly, unless you've got a really, really good profile. It's hard to stand out because now AI has been introduced. I've seen absolute clowns, and I know them personally, who haven't got much going on, have ridiculous AI profiles, which basically steals them the attention. But the point remains the same, which is when they turn up, they haven't trained their nervous system to be normal around women or be social, and so they're still fucked.
That is the difficulty, isn't it? I saw an ad, or a friend of mine actually sent me an ad he'd seen on Instagram, which was advertising a service similar to ones we know guys who offer this kind of service, similar to that, but basically saying, I hired a Filipino VA to handle all my dating app stuff, and then all I have to do is turn up on the dates. And it's sort of like, well, I mean, for a start, I personally wouldn't want to outsource the texting anyway, because the messaging anyway, because I think that's
because who's going to send your dick pics for you?
Yeah. But secondly, the fact remains, like you said, even if you do that service and it works and you get a bunch of dates lined up for you, you've still got to turn up on those dates and be congruent with the way they've been texting, and also be fun and engaging and sort of have that right sexual energy on the date.
And there's no way to shortcut that. You have to go and do the reps. You have to get comfortable with failure, get comfortable escalating the vibe and having moments of tension, and train your nervous system. That's okay. Then you relax. And then to women, you feel comfortable or easy or confident in what you're doing, but you cannot shortcut it without actually doing it.
Yeah. Because I suppose now, actually, I mean, I guess increasingly people will just use AI. I mean, you don't even need to get, well, except that they'll do the physical.
I've had it on account though. I've had this. I remember working with a couple of clients who you know as well. We'll call him one of them. Well, I won't say names, but he said he had a really good AI. I saw his profile on Instagram. It was a really good AI profile, but he said he was getting this thing, and he didn't really. He kind of knew what he meant, but I kind of knew. I knew straight away, which is, yeah, these women are really excited to meet me online, and then when they turn up within 20 minutes, they're kind of like the date feels like it's fizzled out. And what had happened there is he hadn't done the training of his nervous system to flirt with women in real life. So women are seeing this ridiculous profile. They have this crazy Christian Grey-like self-perception of the guy, or externalized perception. They're rolling up. The guy is not like that. He's quite awkward and nervous. And they're like, hold on, I've been sold down the river here.
Yeah.
So I guess it's interesting we haven't come to this point before, but it's not over dramatic to say there is no other option, is there, than actually get out there and learn to speak to women. Like we've jumped around that topic again, but now speaking there's no other way, is there, than just doing reps and getting comfortable, failing with women, getting comfortable with sexual tension. There's no AI that's going to be able to shortcut that process unless you want to just hook up with a robot.
I'm trying to think of a devil's advocate. Is there an exception to this? Because people would say, might say, well, why are you going on dates? Just get her over, you know. But I would say even in that scenario, and obviously, in order to do that, I guess you've got to have a certain amount of riz. You've got to be very decent looking. You've got to have, you know, whatever. But say you are running it like that, where we're not doing what you would call a date. We're not even meeting for a drink even prior to the hookup. She's basically coming over to your apartment. I would argue that even in that scenario, which is going to be difficult for a lot of guys to pull off, but even in that scenario, you're still going to have to interact with her when she turns up at your apartment. And if she senses it's off, or you're nervous, or your vibe isn't right, she can still just walk out and get an Uber and leave. So
a lot of the dates I do is like that. But I would say, I'm not being arrogant here, but I'd say I've earned the right to do that because I've relentlessly gone on dates and tried to pull girls home fast and succeeded a fair bit, but also failed a lot. But I've learned how to be in that situation, do it. And
my point is, it's almost like semantic, isn't it? Because I saw a tweet yesterday, or an X post yesterday, with a guy. I can't really remember the context, but it was basically somebody was talking about dates, and somebody then wrote, "What are you going on dates for? Dates are for betas, you know." And I think the implication was just get her over and have a hookup, right? Okay, fine. But we're just sort of, you know, it's a semantic difference, isn't it? Whether you meet her in a bar first and you have a drink with her, or she comes straight to your apartment, it doesn't really matter. There's a preliminary social bit before she gets naked, all right? Whether that's in your apartment or it's in a bar, it doesn't really fucking matter. You're still going to have to present to her as a real human being. And if you come over as off or suspect or whatever, she's just going to walk out, you know? Yeah.
But
there is
no
foregone conclusion.
Being like most men, let's be honest, they want the snuggles, they want the connection.
Yeah.
So it's not like you get to that first bang and then all bets are off, like job's completed. It's like, no. For most men, that's where the game begins. So you have to spend time in a woman's company, understand how to handle a woman, how to actually have fun, how to hold frame, right? And so it's a beautiful opportunity for men if they really understand what's happening in the world at the moment. Everyone's hooked on AI and porn. No one has the cojones in the Anglosphere to walk out the house and speak to women sober. If you're a guy who flips it on its head and actually willingly runs into that and learns his skill set, it puts you in a very rare percentage of men.
Yeah.
You know, and your options, if you're willing to travel the world, are essentially limitless.
Yeah.
Right. So if you see the glass half full and realize the opportunity, I mean, I always use this kind of hypothetical, funny quote or kind of playful story, which is, you know, but not even going that far back, you know, to pickled heads round your neck. And, you know, if you hadn't got 9, you know, you only had 7, you wouldn't get laid. Like masculinity was real masculinity. But even imagine 1950s US, right? Americans are quite extroverted. Imagine being in 1950s US. There's no mobile phones. The only way to meet people is socially. Your riz would have to be phenomenal, right? Presumably at parties right now, because everyone's fucking hooked on their phones and got no attention span. They're scared of talking to people. Your riz just has to be slightly better than 0, which is the ability to say hello to a girl and see where it goes. I mean, I like those odds. I thank fuck. I mean, I know you've got a few years on me, but even you weren't dating in 1950s US, were you?
No.
Can you imagine how tough it would have been, though? The Riz factor, like California Beach, guys with their rippling six packs, you've got your surfboard, you've got to come out with, you've got a whole court. I mean, it must have been actually quite hard.
Well, I think it was. I think it was. And this is one of the things, because a lot of guys, there's a narrative online that, like, oh, dating has got super, super hard because of women's attitudes and standards and because of social media. And there is truth in that. I think it has become more competitive. It is more difficult.
Yes.
But the idea that there was this golden age when it was just super easy, I think that's massively overstated as well. Because you've only got to watch films like Grease and stuff to see the dynamics were always the same. Women were always drawn to the hottest, most hierarchically powerful guy. I mean, that's just human nature. You're not going to get away from that. That was always the case. So things have now been exacerbated for sure because they've got a lot more options and blah, blah, blah. We've covered all this stuff before, but it was always difficult. And in some ways, like you're saying, in some ways, maybe it was even more difficult for some guys.
I'd say it's even more difficult. I'd say now it's actually, in some ways, if you're willing to flip it on its head and realize that most men have zero cojones, zero ability to speak to anyone sober, you're actually sorted.
Are you aware that someone uploaded a YouTube video doing an impression of you? It's called Troy Francis on Koreska by Zach the Auditor. No, but I never watch anything like that.
Well, let's hope you're doing one of those Russian dances, like an AI version of you wearing a big furry hat and doing a Russian dance.
Yeah. I don't watch. I've actually unfollowed. I don't even watch other dating creators, to be honest. I never watch it. If anybody ever does a video about me, I never watch it. Just on. Well,
it's the classic thing of people trying to build, and people will often do it to build a name off someone.
I mean, it's quite flattering. It's also quite flattering, but I can see how. I mean, I think the videos I'm doing now are very easy to parody because it's me walking around with a camera, usually wearing not a suit or something like a coat and a scarf and stuff. It's very, very. You could definitely parody that quite fun. I think it could be quite funny. But somebody else earlier on in the chat said about John Anthony Lifestyle, saying he's been banned from YouTube, which I didn't know.
I mean, look, if we're just basing it on karmic effect of the universe, I think that's probably long overdue because his entire brand was essentially just building, negative peace on other people. So it's like, well, good, you've got your comeuppance. What a terrible way to be a kind of masculine role model and build a brand by just slagging people off around you the entire time. It's like, fuck me.
Well, yeah. I didn't know that. I'll have to check and see if that's true. But again, I've stopped watching all of these people really because it's sort of like. There was a period when it was, useful for me as not as a content creator, as an individual to watch a lot of dating content because I was trying to learn this stuff. I think now we learn from ourselves, like we learn from teaching guys, we learn from going out there and doing it, So I'm just not really plugged into that world at all.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's kind of like it's a waste of time because. What we try to do really is not a very good business model, but what we try to do ultimately is to give guys the information so they don't need our support forever. You learn the fundamentals, you work with us for a period of time, and then you go off and just do it yourself. That should be the outcome.
That's it. It's becoming a social man and having fun doing it. If you can fall in love with the process of just being social, you will have limitless options. Yeah. It's really that simple. But if you want to accelerate it and have a fuckload of fun, valuetainment, join us around the world in one of these boot camps where we know, where to take you out and, the best places for the hottest women. And we can give you feedback in person. So it shortcuts the process. We record you on small cameras. You give you the footage. It's not for us. We analyze it with you. You shortcut that whole process of having to just go out and be nervous and not know what the fuck you're doing. And then on top of that, if you can't travel, there's the Approach Accelerator Academy course where you do remotely with us wherever you live, right? So the options are there to speed this up. It's been a pleasure as always, Mr. Francis. I'm off to film with Les now. So
indeed, it has. So
tomorrow morning.
Approach Accelerator course is open now. So if you're interested, there is a sales page for it. The link will be below in the description. But drop us an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com or info@jamestuss.com. And also, if you want to come to Rio Carnival. And if you want to do both, if you want to do the online course and come to Rio, that's obviously something we can discuss as well. But put your WhatsApp details so we can get in touch with you and make sure it's a good fit. And we'll go from there.
Also, with my haircut, I said, whatever you do, Mr. Barber, don't make me look like a Russian peasant. And what did he do? Made me look like a Russian peasant.
I thought it was slightly slightly Austrian painter like, actually.
What, Hitler?
Well,
Jesus. A Mexican version. I've got this kind of weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, we will reconvene tomorrow. Cheers, guys.
Yes. All right. See you later.